Middle Eastern oil has completely captivated global big shots, and it's been a real heartthrob for the United States, especially since the 1930s when geologists from Standard Oil of California struck gold with oil on the eastern side of Saudi Arabia. What began as fascination soon turned into a full-blown obsession. Fast forward to post-World War II, and folks are like, whoa, oil is way more than just a fancy industrial thing.
He summoned someone, asked him about the oil well that was discovered, was told how much oil it was producing and what the oil was worth, and he asked, are we going to discover more? And the other fellow, smiling, told him they're going to discover hundreds more. And he looked at him and said, cap it. There is going to be too much money, and too much money is trouble.
Now, the real star moment, Franklin Roosevelt posting the founding monarch of Saudi Arabia, Abdul Al-Aziz ibn Saud, on Egypt's Great Bitter Lake in 1945. And it kicks off one heck of a bromance. The Saudis promise to sling cheap oil globally, and in return, the US pledges to be their guardian angel. The presence of the US military in Saudi Arabia spread some Western culture in this little city in the Arab world, making Arab Muslims not too thrilled with their governments.
They had this fierce religious ideology, the willingness on the part of the Ikhwan, the Brotherhood as they were called, to die in battle. Almost a willingness, a wish to die in battle.
Same deal in Iran, when Shah Reza Pahlavi had a good deal with America. Shah Pahlavi wanted to modernize and secularize Iran, but some of the conservative and religious groups weren't feeling it. Iranians thought modernization was like meddling from outsiders, messing with their traditional values. The climax hit in 1979 when Ayatollah Khomeini led the Islamic Revolution, making most Iranians Shia, while in Saudi Arabia, it's mostly Sunni.
Of the approximately 1.5 billion Muslims in the world, about 85% are Sunni and 15% are Shia. This is a conflict of identity, far more than it is a conflict of belief and practice.
Ayatollah Khomeini was all about turning Iran into a Shia Islamic state. His big dreams made Saddam Hussein, who was running Iraq back then, think that Ayatollah's dreams were a threat to the regional stability. The split between Shia and Sunni Muslims ended up being a major factor for the Iran-Iraq War in 1980. America also doesn't like Iran under Ayatollah, because he was not in favor of foreign meddling, bugging America as a big investor in Iran's oil sector. Long story short, during the Iran-Iraq War, America provided support and weapon facilities to Iraq. And the war lasted until 1988.
America does not seek conflict, nor do we seek to chart the destiny of other nations. But America will stand by her friends.
Fast forward to 1990, under the leadership of Saddam Hussein, Iraq invaded Kuwait, thinking they were producing too much oil, which caused a global oil price drop and reduced Iraqi oil profits. America sees this as a major threat because, if Iraq took over Kuwait, they would control a big chunk of Middle East oil. So they teamed up in a coalition for the Gulf War in 1991. 6 weeks later, Iraq was like, okay, ceasefire time, and that led to economic sanctions on Iraq, like putting a leash on their oil exports, the cash cow. Then, in 2003, America rolls into Iraq, thinking that Saddam had some weapons of mass destruction and maybe had a thing with the Al-Qaeda involved in the 9/11 attacks.
Very sketchy details reaching us here at Sky Centre. Important enough to bring to you, though, at this early stage. We believe that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center in New York.
Right now we're getting information, Al, that it was a small commuter plane, and of course we'll let people know as soon as we have more information as to what actually caused this, and of course on everybody's mind who might have been hurt.
Turns out, those claims were a bust. There is no credible evidence that Iraq had anything to do with the terrorist attacks against the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, or more generally, that Iraq was collaborating with Al-Qaeda against the United States. However, America still managed to overthrow Saddam, creating a political mess and intensifying Sunni-Shia tensions, which gave birth to some extremist groups in Iraq.